Hey everybody, it's Peter from Vital You. I'm an ADHD health coach and I created the 6 pillars of vitality to help you build an ADHD toolkit. The 6 pillars, what are they? Well, they're based off of different health behavior models that help improve your health. Now, this is going to be specific to ADHD in general on the benefits of them. So the first one is movement. The benefits for ADHD enhance focus and concentration by increasing dopamine and norepinephrine levels. They reduce hyperactivity and impulsivity through physical exertion, improves mood, and reduces stress. So, how can you utilize this? Well, you can develop a consistent exercise schedule, whether it's walking, yoga, gym workouts. I talk about this more about developing your QSS, which is having a main behavior and then having backup behaviors. Meaning, if you're doing exercise, maybe your main thing is resistance training, but you have a backup of walking or kayaking as alternatives. And it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time. It's the overall goal that matters. You can also incorporate this by having active breaks, which integrate short physical activities throughout the day to break up work periods. I like to use the Pomodoro method. So throughout the day, every 25 minutes, you have a 5-minute little movement break, or you just have on the hour a 5-minute walk, or whatever works best for you and your job on how it impacts you. If you have a movement based job, then you're already getting a little bit of this behavior going on. You can also set reminders to stand up, stretch, move every hour. Okay, on to the second pillar, nutrition. One of the benefits of nutrition specifically is stabilizing blood sugar levels, preventing energy crashes, and improving focus. One other thing I want to mention is improving satiety. Basically, this means you're not going to get as hungry as much, so it's less likely you're going to snack. Now, there's also not necessarily nutrition, but focusing on having set meals throughout the day and having them ready, or having healthier snacks ready for you so they're easier to grab, which is a huge thing. If you're incorporating more protein and fiber, this is going to be the stuff that helps stabilize your blood sugar levels. There's other minor stuff, but I want to focus on the majors. So some of the ways you can do this is plan and meal prep in advance. I like to use the A plus B plus C formula. It equals D, you sprinkle in a little E. Basically, what that means is you choose your protein source, you have your fiber source, and that's usually going to be in the form of fruits and veggies. So, because it's recommended to have 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies a day. That's overall going to help boost your energy levels anyway and help your brain function better, which is what we need since our brain is already a little less functiony than the average one, at least in mood and executive function and working memory. So, keeping healthy snacks accessible. What I mean by this is having more whole foods. It's okay to have something not as healthy here and there. I don't want you to feel bad about it and then go into a binge. But when you surround yourself with foods you're more likely wanting to eat and keeping those healthy foods around without having the choice of the unhealthy foods, that's going to be a huge portion to actually having your healthier foods. And just staying hydrated to maintain optimal brain function, because that's going to be a huge thing. Not only this, but movement and nutrition are going to help this other pillar, sleep. So sleep is a catch-22 usually when you're an ADHD, because it is harder to fall asleep, it is harder to get to sleep, it is harder to sleep regularly because it's easy to get bored. But here's some of the benefits: enhancing cognitive function and emotional regulation, reducing irritability and improving mood, and supporting overall mental and physical health. When you sleep, your brain functions better, meaning you're actually able to have better executive function. You're able to have a better working memory capacity. Your hormones are going to be regulated better. Your neurotransmitters, which are the things that are affected most: norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine when it comes to ADHD. So Ways you can incorporate this. It goes into sleep hygiene, and I'm going to go more in depth about this in a different video series. Right now, I'm just introducing the 6 pillars and how you can build tools from them. There's different categories and things like that. I actually, in my program, I have a whole list of ideas, so it's not as recall-based or as research-intensive on your end. But your sleep environment matters. Create a sleep-friendly environment that's dark, cool, and quiet. When it is cooler, it usually is more helpful for getting to sleep. When it's warmer, it's a little harder. And having wind-down rituals. So ideally, 30 minutes to 60 minutes before bed, you're not having as much blue light. That means computers, phone, TV, things like that, which is a lot easier to do than it sounds like. It can be as simple as just going to brush your teeth, which I get that that's a hard thing too. It can be incorporating a meditation practice. It can be playing with the dogs or the cats or any animals you have. It can be, which I was just looking at my animals. It can be playing games with your family or partner, hopping on a phone call but not looking at the light, or even just putting blue light filters on and shifting it down like that. I like to do a no technology thing before bed. It just helps me more, but you got to do what you got to do. That being said, try not to have your phone in the same room as where you sleep if you can. This helps so much. And I also put my phone on Do Not Disturb at night because if it's important enough, Do Not Disturb. If they call multiple times, it will come through. I always have mine on silent too, because usually if it's an emergency, I'll find out about it in the morning as well. But then again, I don't have kids yet, so that's a different story if you do. When you're going about this, it's consistency in your sleep routine that's going to help. Just like making sure you have certain times in when you're going to eat, establishing certain times in which you're going to sleep, roughly trying to keep it within an hour window. Weekends, I give myself a break to where I don't have my alarm. So establish and maintain a regular sleep schedule. This will get your circadian rhythm going to where you naturally start to feel a little sleepier, or it'll just get easier to fall asleep because now your hormones are in check, and it'll be easier to wake up at a similar-ish time to where you're at least not getting interrupted in the middle of a sleep cycle. Typically, I get up at 6:30 or 7 a.m. every morning just due to work. And then I go to bed around 9:30, 10, 10:30. It depends. But that's how I go about it. You're going to have to develop the thing that works best for you. If I stay up past a certain time, I am just not going to function at all. All right, so 4th pillar. This is learning how you're able to function and stuff like that, right? So self-care is taking care of yourself, whether it's creating organizational systems or setting boundaries or whatever you got to do that falls under that. It's the stuff that's going to help reduce stress and prevent your burnout. Having days in which you can just tangent and not feel bad about it. Give yourself that room to do it. Saturdays usually are mine, to where at least I have a few hours allotted to it. I usually have a nature set time on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. I make sure I try not to work Saturdays or Sundays most of the time. Another benefit of improving self-care and getting that going is improving emotional regulation and self-awareness. ADHD is a emotional regulation thing. So if we can actually focus on building our emotional regulation better, that is going to help so much, because if you're burnt out, emotional regulation is going to be down anyway. If you've got ADHD, it's down even more. So this will at least help it go into a better direction. And you're able to build more self-awareness if you're able to spend some time with yourself too. That is not a requirement, but if you're able to journal or do anything like that, those are forms of self-care, but they're also into a different pillar called mindfulness, and we'll get into that. Not only that, but self-care is going to help enhance productivity and focus through organized routines. Part of self-care is helping you just build your routines to help work with your brain rather than against it. If you notice something going on, shift to make it for that. If you notice you get more tired with more things, feel free to write it down and have something to remind you of it, so you can put those things as a one-day task instead of, oh man, I'm going to fit this task and these two other tasks. If that one task takes all your spoons, just do that one task. Or if you need to get all the other tasks done, save that task for a different day. It's all about prioritization there. Some self-care can be just having daily goals or intentions to provide structure. Incorporating the other pillar of mindfulness, which is mindful practices. That's another version, but that depends on if it takes a lot of energy out of you or not. We'll get into that in a second. Organizational systems like using planners, to-do lists, reminders, calendars. It does not have to be that, but sticky notes are temporary. If anything, one of the methods you can use is email yourself back. Try to get your email list down. If you already look at all the promotions, you could delete all that. If you look at all the updates, siphon through that a little bit. Usually if it's been 9 months, they're most likely not important, so you already have the past 3 months as a helpful tool. So that helps get your email list down so it's not as stressful, to where if you want to use your email as a task, that's helpful. There's also other apps and things like that. There's Notion, there's TickTick, there's other specific reminder apps that can help you really have set times throughout the day. I like to have guidelines for my day. I have an idea of the time in which I can do it, but I always give a backup room or even a backup day. But don't keep backing up the day over and over again. There should be a deadline somewhere in there, because that's how it is very helpful. Self-care is going to lead us into this other pillar, mindfulness. So specifically, mindfulness is focusing on one thing at a time and becoming more aware. We're going to get into more in-depth examples in a second. The benefit specifically for ADHD is increasing focus and attention by training the mind to stay present. It's very easy to get distracted by different things all the time. But if we keep focusing on rolling ourselves back in and in and in, it is a way that we can at least focus on building those areas of our brain. It helps reduce impulsivity through enhanced self-awareness, improving emotional regulation, and reduces stress. There's so many studies out there around mindfulness and ADHD that it helps improve executive function, and it helps improve working memory capacity. And it's just because it does so many other things. There was a study with nuns, to where the ones that did longer meditation practices had more emotional regulation when put in stressful environments. Are we that? No, but it does help with emotional regulation in general. Some ways you can do this is focusing on your breath. So as you breathe in, you think in. As you breathe out, you think out. There's also specific breathing exercises you can do. To where there's coherent breathing. You're inhaling for 5 seconds, you're exhaling for 5 seconds. And that's supposed to be exactly a minute, to where you're able to have 5 breaths a minute or 6 breaths a minute. It comes out to something like that. And it helps calm the nervous system a little bit more. I like to fuse a bunch together because I do get bored too. I also like to use mala beads because it gives me the sensation in my fingers to where I'm moving them around. And I can go from one to the other, and then there's this big tassel at the end telling me that I'm done. And I like that because I don't like to set timers for that specifically, because I don't want to be rattled. And I'm the same way with my alarm clock. I have one of those sun ones that slowly brightens, and I've noticed that shift has helped me get up in the morning so much better. Anyway, there's apps to help with guided meditations if you want a more structured section. And there can be other mindful activities. It does not have to be meditation. You can do yoga, tai chi, qigong, Pilates. You can focus on just running without any music or stuff like that. You can focus on driving one thing at a time. You can engage in activities like mindful eating or mindful walking. There's a lot out there. It can just be doing the dishes and just focusing on the dishes. I don't like the dishes, so that one won't work for me. And so you're going to have to see what works best for you on that part. We want to make sure we have enough spoons to do other things. But mindfulness helps you connect with yourself because you're able to build that self-awareness. Okay, final pillar, connection. So the benefits of connection we're going to get into in a moment, but connection, there's 3 portions of it that I created. There's connection with yourself, There's connection with others, because we're social creatures, and there's connection with nature, because nature also helps with mood and emotional regulation and giving us balance. Um, Benefits for us with ADHD. It provides emotional support and reduces feelings of isolation, especially when we're connecting with ourselves, to where we're just like, oh, I noticed that thought pattern occurs at this time. It enhances your self-awareness through meaningful relationships, encourages positive behavior and accountability, because you're just like, oh, well, I know I'm not going to be able to do that task unless somebody else is in the room with me. Well, that's something you learned about yourself. That's great. The key thing here is, if you know you're going to forget, write it down and put it somewhere memorable for yourself, whether it's in your phone with a reminder or whatever it is. This is going to allow you not to have to rely on your working memory as much. Self-connection you can do by journaling, self-reflection, setting personal goals. Social connection, you can do regular catch-ups with friends and family, hopping on the phone or something like that. Joining interest-based groups. There's apps like Meetup. You can, like what I do, I go rock climbing, and I made friends there, and now I have rock climbing groups in which I go with. So get a little creative with this. You can just go to different events. There's networking events, and that can be a way you can meet people. I used to, when I broke up with my ex, what I would do was I would go to the Kava bar, which is a non-alcoholic bar, because I have a highly addictive personality, and I know that about myself. Uh, so I would go there, and they had a pool table, they had board games and things like that, and I made friends there, and I just brought a book, and I was there. I would bring my laptop occasionally, things like that, and I would be able to meet people. So there's different ways of going about this. You're going to have to see what works best for you. Ideally, you're in an environment that is supportive to you in all aspects of health, rather than something that's going to support other addictive behaviors that have negative consequences on yourself. Okay, on a nature connection. Spending time outdoors, engaging in eco-friendly activities. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature. I was just running in nature earlier, so I got my movement in along with my nature, and I didn't have music in, so I got my mindfulness in there too. So these are all things to where it doesn't have to be separate. But I highly suggest focus on one or two things at a time, because oftentimes they are with each other, and it'll help pivot into a bigger, more holistic approach. Be patient with yourself on this. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to cycle through them, and I plan on going over more videos specific into certain topics of this. But if you can comment below the topics you want to know about specifically, I would love to hear it. How can you incorporate the pillars? So you can develop a daily routine incorporating elements from each pillar. Focus on one pillar each week to build sustainable habits. The first part is the most difficult, because it takes roughly 2 to 6 weeks for it to actually be ingrained into the portion of our brain that's focused on habits, because we can actually have good habits. It's the part getting up to it that's hardest due to executive function and working memory. But these pillars help improve executive function and memory. Just like taking your meds, whether it's ADHD medication or other medication, or if you're taking supplements, anything like that, to where it's hard to do that regularly. But if you set a time each day and it's visually there in front of you, and you set your environment up to remind you of it, and you have other things going on, that is a way to where, okay, I can have this habit ingrained in my life now. And that's a way you can build it, building the supportive, structured environment around it. Maybe you have a family or friend or a fellow ADHDer. I plan on building an ADHD community, so stay tuned for that. It's not built out yet. But you have a lot of options for this, and you can integrate more people into it. And regularly assess and adjust strategies to ensure that these habits remain effective. I like to go by the QSS rule, which is quickly stop and then shift. And you're starting into that shift. So you're recognizing what's working and what's not, and then you're shifting. You're stopping the thing that's not working, and then you're shifting into more things that are working. That way, you can keep moving forward and build your base. Because if it's been 2-3 months of not working and it's just that big of a hassle, then maybe it's not for you. And that's fine. There's a lot of different ways to go about each portion of these pillars. It's not going to look the same for each person. But that was 20 minutes. If you're still here, thank you. Please like, subscribe, and share this with a friend that wants to learn more about the 6 pillars of vitality on just having a broad range of it. I will get deeper into each of these topics and have more niches down. So please subscribe to get more and comment down below what you would like me to go over even more.